Hello there folks, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics, usually about game design and especially about introspection and spirituality. This time it's gonna be a first, it's gonna be a video made to a reaction video, a British reaction to Romanian rap, a band in our country which is called B U G Mafia, or well, better said, Bucharest Underground Mafia, and well, the YouTuber reacted to a song called Strazile. Now, this actually means the streets, and usually it refers to, in this context, in the context of the song, it refers to living life on the streets, as somewhat of a vagabond, but not necessarily as a loser. More like, someone who's, adaptable and knows how to live life and may end up by the side of the mafia or against, because usually there's gangs and joining one means you're gonna be the enemy of others anyways. So, well, I also was impressed by the fact that it's 1111 in numerology. This is a number of initiation, right? It is a number in which if you're thinking of something when you're seeing it, well, it's like go for it because it's gonna be a good idea. So I decided, well, why not so?
Everyone, so I'm back with another reaction video today. This one's from our Romanians again. So this video is called Bug B-U-G Mafia Strazile featuring Mario V, produced by Tata Vlad. But yeah, man, before I start though, make sure to subscribe because I'm trying to hit 300 now, because I'm so happy that you lot helped me out to hit that 200 subscriber goal. So right now it's time to get to 300, guys. So if you subscribe and make that happen, I'll be so happy. But anyways,
so the person reacts to the video, but
I'll do that for you.
Honestly, what I was interested in is running the original video, although I don't want to take a strike for it, and analyze it word by word. Now, I saw another video from the YouTuber, and he had several videos, I think I saw at least two, in which they tried to learn Romanian. Now, Romanian is not one of the most difficult languages, but it does have some quirks when you want to dive into some of the more refined aspects of it. Because when you want to learn a new language, the vocabulary is gonna be usually the bigger problem. Usually how the verbs are shaped and as such, those are rules, and you learn the rules, it's not much of a big deal. Compared to English, Romanian, however, has genders for words, just like German, for example, and well, that can be a bit problematic for people who are not kind of used to. Like in English, when you say a certain word, it doesn't belong to any gender, right? When you say elephant, when you say table, English only has one single article, right? It has a, right? And it's pronounced un in some cases where you have a vowel at the beginning of the other word, right? You have an elephant or a table, right? You don't have any gender. But in Romanian, there are actually genders. So, for example, table is actually o masă in Romanian because masă is table, but you also need the gender specific article, right? The indefinite article, which is o, right? O masă, because O is for feminine. And in this case, it can also be mistaken for the numeral, because O can also mean one at feminine. When you say o fată, right? You say a girl. But it's only counting as a numeral when you have at least another such noun or anything else that denotes a numeral. When you say o fată, that's always a indefinite article. But if you say o fată și un băiat, right? If you say a girl and a boy, well, then that's each of those are gonna be numerals. O is no longer gonna be an article. But okay, these are just subtleties of Romanian. Now, when it comes to this song, B U G Mafia Strazile, and the original video, the video was made based on a movie series that I haven't watched when I was it was quite a while ago. I don't know if it actually says in here. The point is, these are scenes from a movie series about, mafia, underground life, and the verses speak about, the ugly situation in Romania, right? And what I wanted to also do by this is, well, besides showing the video, present the verses and actually translate them and present different topics based on whoever wants to understand what lies beyond the verses, right? This is quite old in a way. The video was posted in 2010, yes, but I think it's older than that, and it was used for this movie, which glimpses of one can see in the video.
Prezint soluții radicale ca toți băieții buni care au ridicat imperii în afaceri ilegale. Că în stradă poți să te alegi cu răle tale atunci când armele zâmbesc în felinare. În continuare bulangii toarnă și răstoarnă tot. Liderii adevărați spălesc ca un popor de floare. Uitat de florăresele din colț în soare. Și garda se fălește acum cum pești atât de mare, da. Reacția e în lanț, Gaborzac în șanț. Avem demisii extraordinare la bilanț. Următorul candidat la tron își face loc printre ziduri de beton și acaparează tot. Și eu sunt sigur pe mine că nu poți să te bazezi decât pe tine. Nici gaborii nu prea mă plac în fine. Sângele latin care încă-mi curge în fine mă face să fiu ca Al Capone, știi bine. Poți să spui rugăciuni, să se întâmple minuni, dar ce semeni adun, fugi, fugi, vin băieți buni. Poți să spui rugăciuni, să se întâmple minuni, dar ce semeni adun, fugi, fugi, vin băieți buni. Pe când se întâmplau basmele, oamenii au creat legile, atunci au definit părțile, astfel s-au aruncat hărțile. Conflictul a schimbat armele pentru a doborî țintele. Armurile sunt azi vestele care împiedică gloanțele, dar și așa curge sângele. Imagini cum redau știrile, mai nou se folosesc vocile, testele ADN, actele, și totuși nu se văd semnele. Cum că s-ar încheia luptele, garda și-a adunat forțele să încerce să ne ia străzile, poate la anul zi. Poți să spui rugăciuni, să se întâmple minuni, dar ce semeni adun, fugi, fugi, vin băieți buni. Poți să spui rugăciuni, să se întâmple minuni, dar ce semeni adun, fugi, fugi, vin băieți buni.
So as the video goes, the point is it presents topics about, the hideous situations in Romania, with mafia gangs and the such. And here in the H tags we have B U G Mafia, the name of the band, The Greatest Fans, cei mai tari fani, and Mai mulți decât armata. This was a verse in another song, funny B U G Mafia, Mai mulți decât armata. Well, it means that fans who liked the band actually were far more than the army members themselves. It was a comparison to show that there's a very great number of people supporting them, which was in a way a good thing, because what B U G Mafia presents in a way, in quite a less subtle way. They present things up front, they can use quite some swears at time. The point is they present a situation, right? A grim situation in Romania, a country that is, represented by a lot of poverty, ignorance, and of course theft, corruption, and the such, okay? And well, I'm glad this video actually belongs to B U G Mafia channel themselves. So It presents bits of a movie. It was a movie series. I haven't watched it. I've watched just a bit when I was a child. I was, well, much younger, and I didn't have a TV in my own room by then. Well, I actually had one, but I was way too busy with school and homework, and kind of my whole day was full, and I didn't have much time to watch it. Many people actually did. It presented the life of, what it is to be the life of an underground being, or the people that live beyond, right, the mundane life of mundane people, right, the people who fight for influence, and drug life, and the such, the cartels, and different other topics, which are usually presented by rap music. Now, as for the verses, okay, in the song, the this part is here, it's more like an interjection. It is kind of a sound. It's just an initiator. When it comes to the first strophe, okay, it's e locul în care n-ai curaj, n-ai cum să vrei, okay, this is called a, this letter is called a, and it's this actual sound. It has no other sounds, okay, it's not pronounced differently, it's always pronounced like this. And it starts with this, which in this case it also acts as a preparatory sound for e, which in this case it's the verb, okay, it is the place where, right, locu, right, it's actually locul, it has an l at the end, but in some cases you can actually let's say remove that. Let's actually open a text for people who may want to learn something a bit about Romanian. So when you have something like this, this is a structure where that you can also write as e locul în, okay, în care, n-ai, okay. This dash is used for situations in which you want to cut a certain vowel and pronounce the word a bit faster, right? The verse is a bit lengthy, and you may want to reduce, some pronunciations. And in some cases, you can actually delete both a consonant and a vowel. So instead of locul în, right, you have locun, right, and you actually win one syllable, right? And here, nu nai is the short of nu ai, okay, you don't, okay, and I it can be a tricky word, because I in this case is an auxiliary which belongs, wait, oh no, in this case it is not an auxiliary, it is actually the verb. The original verb is a avea, okay, to own or possess, okay, but it can also be used as, for example, I vreau, okay, and in this case it is an auxiliary, so it can actually be, it is an auxiliary when it is coupled with another verb. So it is the place where, wait, în care, right, the în is preposition which denotes place, right? It's basically e locul în care nu ai curaj, okay? In where it's the place where you don't have courage, okay, or you can actually, interpret it as you lose your courage, right? And here we have an enumeration, right? It's the place where you don't have courage or any courage, but it's word for word, it's you have no courage, right? You have no will, or you cannot want, right? N-ai cum să vrei, right? It's impossible for you to want, right? It doesn't tell you what you can want, okay? It's basically you want, or you can't want anything, okay? When you enter this world, right, locul, right, when you enter this world, you either do what you are told, or you're simply irrelevant, right? You're not gonna be a pleasant sight for others, and you're basically a problem, right? So it's a place where, right, where the subject here, you, is omitted, because in Romanian one can easily omit the subject, which in English, for example, usually you don't, right? So n-ai curaj, right? No courage, right? Well, it's actually nu ai. Nu is this one written as nu, and you, it's the negative form, okay? And ai curaj is you have courage, okay? Have courage. I is a avea, okay? This is pronounced a avea. I is the infinitive auxiliary, right? All the verbs in the infinitive form always have this a, right? You have a avea, a vrea, for example, to want, a bea, to drink, right? So all Romanian verbs in the infinitive form have this a, right? Just like English has too, right? It's kind of the basic same structure. And you have nu ai cum să vrei, okay? And it's like it's impossible for you to want, right? Technically, how this could be interpreted is there is no will, okay? You cannot wish for any change. It is either go by these laws or, well, it's gonna be a problem, right? E in here is the verb for this verse, right? E posibil să o dai, da e probabil să o iei, okay? E in here is not this one as it is used in here. It is the verb. And, well, they chose to put it here, but, well, e posibil să o dai, da e probabil să o iei. Now this verse presents another reality of this locul, of this place, right? And locul is a word that here we have an article, okay? This l is a definite article. It's the article that belongs to the ending part of the word. Now, because the word itself is loc, okay, now this loc is let's actually present it as the full-fledged, so it's un loc, okay, două locuri, okay? This is neutral gender, right? And it means place, okay? And it's actually with două, okay? And no, I'm not interested in this, okay? Un is masculine, and neutral gender in Romanian means that it has a masculine form of a singular, and the plural sounds with the same form of the plural feminine, okay? So in this verse, it presents the reality. E posibil să o dai. Now, dai in here means it comes from the verb a da, which means to give. Now, this to give can also mean to give punches, right? To punch someone in the face, right? A da, let's say, a da cu pumnul, right? Again, this L here is the article, and you also put a U, so that's, you know, like this pumnl, it would sound kind of bad, right? So you also add another vowel to have it sound better, right? And this one would be to hit with a punch, right? Ada also can mean to hit. Ada can also mean to successfully gain a strike, like let's say to cheat on others, right? E posibil să o dai in this case can mean you can cheat on others, you know, you can have a plan and, you know, it can work against others. But, you know, it says here, e posibil să o dai, da e probabil să o iei, okay? Like, as easy, let's say, or as it is that you can, right? Possible is possibility, right? Just like in English. You have the same probability that you're also gonna be messed with, okay? So let's say you can mess with others, in this case with die. It's a bit trickier here, but others can also mess with you, okay? And here we have a game, again the same situation, right? This Now this dash is called kratim in Romanian, and that's how we actually call it. Okay, it's a dash in English, yes, but this so equals s o. Okay, it's a plural. It's a plural form. So a die, which comes from a da, which is the infinitive, and well, it is the infinitive, and so a die is actually plural. Okay, you can actually win it, but you can also lose it, right? Something like that. If you know, I'm not too knowledgeable of American or British slang. Okay, but okay. Then you have că atâta șmecherie în Las Vegas mai vezi. Okay, so for this much atâta, right? This much dodgery, let's call it like this, only in Las Vegas you can see, right? Mai vezi. Vezi comes from the Latin video, which means to see. Romanian has a very good background of Latin and especially Slavic words. So don't be surprised if you find a lot of Slavic and Latin origin words, right, in Romanian. So mai means to see. It can be used as a comparison, mai mult, which means more, but in this case it can be used as only, right? For so much dodgery only in Las Vegas, right? Can you see? Șmecherie as a word is funny when it comes to its origin, right? It comes from the German word, which is Schmecker, if I think either like this or this. I don't know exactly how it's spelled. I almost said spelled. So Schmecker in German is translated in Romanian as degustator. Okay, now don't take this word for dezgustator. Okay, dezgustator means awful, horrible, but degustator is the one who tastes drinks. Okay, usually wines, because they have a refined taste for that, and they test the quality by drinking them, right? And this word comes from the Banat region of Romania, which is a southwestern region where people speak more German in there, because they've had contact with a lot of those, right? And it was numerous. There were numerous cases where, of course, the area is well known for vineyards, and people would come and buy from there, and even some merchants from afar. And German merchants would also occasionally buy, because the wines were probably cheaper, but they were also well known and they had a good taste. But as people are, they wanted to sell more and more, so they would make the wine less and less of a lesser quality, right, to be able to sell more, right, by diluting it. The Germans is not the present day Germans, right? The Germanic people, because this is very old story, let's say, of the etymology of the word Schmecker, right? And the point is, they brought what they call, right, the Germanic people call the Schmecker, right? The taster, or I don't know actually how you would say it. Let's actually go for a Google Translate, because I know the word, but it's kind of let's actually see if it's taster. Yeah, I said it right. Okay, so it's basically a taster. Okay, so and then the Romanian folks were kind of convinced that you can't fool them that much, and there was the quote "Vine cu șmecherul." Okay, they're coming with the taster, right? It was like a warning sound, right? And they would have quality wine and lower quality wine, right? And when they saw that more people would come, usually they would have a schmecker as well, so they wouldn't give them the lower quality wine anymore, because they also wanted to to sell it, right? So they had to give them the greater quality because they would taste the wine and see whether it is fake or not. And you know how things go. The way you hear a certain word, you might actually flex it a bit and adapt it to your own pronunciation. And you know, since these folks who came with the Schmeckers were now you know, much more trusting in the fact that they would get higher quality wine, let's say, and they wouldn't be robbed of their money, right? The word Schmecker, right, came into Romanian, and Schmecker in Romanian would mean what Dodgers it means in, you know, English and American slang. Okay, Dodgers is that person you don't mess with because they're, you know, a tough cookie, they're adaptable, they're smart, you know, they're that kind of person you don't deal with, right? And Schmeckerie would be translated kind of as dodgery, right? But it can also mean, you know, being up in the air, you know, feeling full of yourself, because it's a word that can portray a lot of things in one single word, right? And we just have a comparison with Las Vegas in here, nothing special about, right? For this much dodgery in Las Vegas, you only see, right? Again, there is no subject in this lesson, in this sentence, okay? There is no subject in here as well, because here would have been the subject, but honestly, Romanian can simply jump over it, can skip over it, because you can understand from the context. Even in English, you can do that, but more or less, but, you know, the structure says always, you know, subject predicate, right? Și cum se schimbă unii în curve, nici nu-ți, ok? Vine să crezi, ok? This one is a very short I when pronounced in this case. It's not a rule, okay? Usually you pronounce it like this because you don't have to put a great accent on it, okay? It's, in case you know a bit of Russian, it's exactly like the soft I in Russian, okay? And how some, okay, unii means some people, right, change, right? Here we have se schimbă, okay, they change, well, they don't change themselves because schimbă can, you know, in this case refers to their behavior, right? Schimbă means, well, a schimba means to change, to shift, and you can change your work shift, right? You can change a habit, you can change a routine, right? It has the same English functionality, right? You can use this word for a lot of things. You can change your clothes, right? You can change friends, so it has kind of the same usage. And how, cum is how, this word is kind of funny when you write it in, you know, English chats, because, you know, in English slang it means, you know, it means sperm, and usually you get you don't get banned for it, but in chat you get this you know, marked, and people who don't know your language might mean that you're actually swearing, right? Cum is actually an adverb and it means how, and how some, right, change into in, okay, un is in. Curve is kind of, well, a swear. It is a word that means whore. It means, well, more like slut, you know, and it can also be used for floozy, right? It can have, just like in English, several usages. It's usually an injurious word, especially if addressed to a woman, but when you speak about it, generally it's much less of a word. Now, in this case, right, so the verse exactly says, and how some change, let's say, themselves into pussies. Let's actually translate it as pussies. You won't even believe, okay? Nici nu, okay? You won't believe. You won't find it to believe because it's vine să crezi. It's, yes, it's like you're finding it to believe or something like that. You know, it's not specifically and directly să crezi, right? A crede, right, comes from the Latin credo, which means to believe, right? And it comes, I think there's a Latin sayer that goes like credo videns or credo video. I don't know exactly how it was. See it and believe it, or something like that. And you won't believe how some change into pussies. Okay, now curve means, you know, just like in English we have those injurious words. We have bitch, slat, whore, hooker, turf, right, floozy. Uh, there are probably others. And, you know, in this case, curve does not refer specifically to, you know, women of lower morals. In this case, curvă can also mean pussy, right? People who would do anything to please others. Okay, so this would be kind of the sense of this word. Now, as it goes on, it's e capitala României, e București. This doesn't need much translation. It's Romania's capital. It's Bucharest. Here the verb e is repeated just to keep to the number of syllables. E mai mult decât atât, e să dovedești. Now, this part here is a bit tricky to translate. A dovedi means to prove, right? And exactly like in English, it is to prove something. And in this case, what it means is it's more than this. So it starts with it's Romania's capital, it's Bucharest, right? And you also have an exclamation mark, right? It's a warning, right? And then they say it's more than just that, right? E mai mult decât atât, right? And when they pronounce, the accent of the sentence falls on mult, which means a lot, right? A lot or many, right? Because in English you have the countables and uncountables, right? But mult is used for both situations, right? It's even more, right? It's mai mult, right? Mai, as I said, it's used for here, mai vezi, right? Here it's used with an adverb, right? Mult here is it's an adverb. It shows a lot, and here it's actually even more than a lot, right? It's more than a lot. It's, yes, even far more than that, right? It's to prove, but here it's not to prove something. It's more like to prove yourself, right? To prove yourself worthy of the challenge. Românii și româncele, this one is pronounced U, and it is the same as this one. Okay. Now in Romanian we have two letters that are both pronounced as U. Okay, and these two letters, okay, they are pronounced both the same, but the rule of using them is, well, this one is used when it's at the beginning and at the ending of the word, and this one is used only when within a word. Now, in some very rare cases, you will see the U din I, as we call it, I mean I, right? U shaped as E, right? Or I in English. This was the older way of writing, okay? I don't think they actually had this letter before, and after the fall of communism, this letter also started to be used. I'm not sure exactly how, but this is quite often to see the, you know, letter atât, right? Written in both situations, either in the word or, you know, at the beginning or at the ending of the word. But this one is used mainly in the word and, well, at the end of the word. At the beginning and at the ending of the word, and this one is used within. And one of the best examples would be, let's say, a word that you learn at the kindergarten, which is called as întâi. Okay, this întâi means primul. Okay, and for the feminine you have întâia, okay, which would be translated as in Romanian would mean prima. Okay, now these both, primul and prima, means the first. Okay, and this is, well, another way of saying it, right? You have primul or prima. Okay, they both mean the same thing, the first. Okay, the first of, let's say. So here you have the Romanians, okay, the masculine, româncele, you have Romanians, this is the feminine word. Again, you have țiganii and țigăncile, right? You have the gypsies, right? or the Roma. And again, English doesn't have genders, but this is the masculine form, this is the feminine form. Usually the feminine form can flex a bit, and it may have a few shapes because some words can be pronounced differently um, in the feminine form. So let's actually take an example. Okay, you have psycholog, okay, which just like in English, it's an easy word. It means psychologist. Okay. Now the true feminine form of psycholog would be psycholog. Okay, with this in here, this would be the feminine. But in some cases, you can actually see psycholoag, right? Loag, okay, psycholoag, okay, for the feminine form. Although the correct feminine would be this, you can also see as psycholoag, okay. This can also be used as, more like a slightly, not injurious, but, when you mock someone, okay. But in very rare cases, okay, it's not something meant to harm women or something like that. But the correct pronunciation and the correct plural would be psychologă, although in some cases, or actually the most cases, you'll see it written as psycholoagă, although correctly Romanian uses a pattern in which when you speak of a job or a certain title, you speak about a masculine one, right? So when you say doctor, right, you have doctor psycholog, okay, you have doctor psycholog. This means doctor psychologist, okay. Now as in English, right, but English lacks genders, you use it as doctor psycholog even for women, right? It's not because, now many people, those primitives usually, fuss because, they feel that women are not represented if the feminine gender is not used, but that is not the case. The feminine gender in Romanian is a bit longer because you have that feminine suffix, and you always go for the masculine one because it's much shorter, and especially when you're a news presenter, usually you want to speak as much as possible, right, as fast as possible. Okay, so you have Romanians and Romanians, right, the Romanian women, the gypsy and the gypsy women, right, these kind of are, some of the sides, the main sides in, this fuss, right, that Strazile actually represent, right, and this A in here is not an A, it is this okay, it's Strazile. Okay, and then you have guvernu, right, this apostrophe means that the L part, just as I was saying here, is omitted, because when you say guvernu, it sounds a bit faster and it's a bit more fluent than when you say guvernul, banii, gaborii, găinarii, okay? And you have guvernu, which means the government, this is easy peasy, banii, which is the plural for money, something that the English doesn't have because money is always singular, gaborii, okay? You will hear some pronounce this with an accent on O. I've happened to hear it accidentally very few times, but the accent falls on A. It's Gabor. Okay. Now, what Gabor means? It's a slang term used for the chieftain of prison, but mainly it is used for police folks. Okay, it is a slightly injurious term, right? A slang term for police people, but the term comes from Hungarian. Okay, the term itself, Gabor, means a Hungarian gypsy. Okay, in Hungary, that's how the gypsies are called, because they're called, well, they are Hungarian gypsies, they're called Gabor. Okay, and the double E shows a plural. Okay, now Romanian has a tricky thing with the I and the plural, okay, because you have Gabori. Okay, you have Gabor, which is in slang a police person, and this is the singular. This is the plural. You have Gabor, right? Right? But when you add a second E, it shows that you refer specifically to them, right? Just like you have ban, right? Ban means money, right? In English you have only singular form for money, but in Romania you have ban, which is the singular form of money, and then you have bani, right, with the first E, which is the plural form of money. When you speak with the two I's, the second I shows that you're specifically referring to it, right? You're making an accent, right? Bani, right? It's a slightly longer E, okay? And găinari, well, this is kind of a very great synonym of curve, the sense that curve has in this particular song, and it actually refers to, you know, pussies. Basically, găinar refers to snitch, someone who would betray others, someone who would do anything. They're just volatile people, okay? Think of anyone who's the most volatile possible. There's basically no sense of honor, there's basically no sense of structure, integrity. They'll just switch sides to whoever is more convenient, right? You find the best words for that, because basically this word holds a great variety of words within it, right? Pușcăria și anii, cartierul și veteranii, okay? Pușcăria is prison, right? And you have ani, which is the years, right? These go together because many of these people on the streets, right, they are, mafia people. They deal with underground activities, illegal activities. So, the penitentiary is part of a corrupt system, like in many other countries, right? And ani, right, cartierul is the hood, right, or the neighborhood. And veterani, again, is veteran singular, veterani plural, with a soft E, right? Veterani. You barely pronounce the I. And you have veterani with a longer E, right? It's the veterans, right? The ones who are, the wiser ones on the field, right? They've had the most, or, well, more experience than most others, right? Copiii și drogurile means the children, right? And this one is an exception. It has three I's, right? And drogurile, well, you don't need a translation, right? Armele means arms, just like in English, firearms. So these, are, this is a enumeration of what you will find on the Strazile, okay? Things regarding that, right? And things representing, underground activities and, poverty, right? So you'll find things related to the prison, people who've been there, people who can actually go there. Ani, in this case, means years of experience, either in the prison or on the streets, right? The neighborhood is basically where you do your deals. The veterans, right? The big ones. Copiii is a word which means children, right? But the point is, in Romanian, it actually is written by default with two I's. Okay, there is no such thing as copy. Okay, there is no such thing as this. So for children, you have copii. Okay, the singular is copil, which means a child, and you have the plural, which is copii, with a longer e, and it actually means children. When you say copii, again, it is that suffix that shows you are specifically referring to them, right? When you say, this is also used, for example, when it is the subject, right? Copiii se joacă. It is the suffix that shows they are the, let's say, the target of the, they are the focus of attention, right? So the children and the drugs, right? Firearms, armele, right? It's armele, right? The accent is on a, so it's copii, right? The accent is on the second e. And drogurile, right, on O. Again, drogurile, so you have this repetition because, you have underground deals. Tre comes from trebuie, and this shows that part of the word is omitted because you want to win another syllable, right, in the syllable count. And trebuie să înțelegi treburile, frate. Okay. Now, frate in Latin means brother, exactly what frate in Romanian is, right? This is actually, one of the sentences that present you with how difficult the things are, right? Because they tell you the prison, right? Years of experience, the neighborhood, the vets, right? The veterans, the children, drugs, firearms, again, drugs. You must understand the deals, right? Treabă means business, but it can also mean deal, right? It can be used in several ways. And you must understand the things, bro, right? Like, if you want to deal with such thing, you must understand the things, bro. You must learn how the things go, right? Pe stradă dai de toate combinate, right? On the streets, right? Pe, on the street, pe stradă, dai. In this case, dai is not the same as in here, right? Here it doesn't refer to beat, to strike, to give. This is a short form of an expression, a da de, right? Which means, in this case, a da de toate, which means to bump into, okay? So on the streets you can be met with everything, right? All sorts of situations, and since it's about Bucharest, it's all sorts of situations all combined, okay? So it's much worse, hence why the exclamation mark in here. Amestecate peste poate este greu, so mixed together, right? Beyond possibility, right? Peste poate is like more than possible, right? All these, right? The situation is hard. Our situation, right? The situation in Bucharest is hard on the streets. Aici ne facem treaba, aici cu noi vei fi mereu, right? Here on the streets, right? Strazile. On the streets, we do our deals, right? Treaba, like in here, treburile is the plural. Aici ne facem treaba, here we do our deals, we handle our deals. Aici cu noi vei fi mereu. This is a verse part that, you know, induces the viewer in, right? Here, right? Here with us, noi, us. Again, the subject is omitted. You, will, vei, vei fi, this is the plural of a fi. A fi is the infinitive form, and this one is the plural form, vei fi, not plural form, the future tense, right? Vei fi mereu, always. So here with us you'll be always or forever, but you'll always be here with us, right? It has an impact, right? You see them as you saw them in the video, they present their life very intimately in a way, and you know, if you join us, you'll be with us forever, right? All the time we'll be by your side, right? You're inducing the viewer into your world, right? Nu e niciun sfat Nu e niciun sfat de dat, niciun contract de semnat. So joining us has no tip to be given, right? You are no tip to be given. There is no tip to be given, okay? And neither is there any contract to sign, right? Suntem, again with this U, right? Although it should have been this one, right? But it doesn't matter, okay? Usually older generation people still use this. It's not wrong, some people will criticize them, but I really can't care less about that. It's one of the most irrelevant things in Romanian, but I explained, basically it's the same sound. Suntem mafia pe viață, frați, de fapt, refers to we are the mafia for life, right? And then you have a dash, here it shows a kind of a break, right? Because they say suntem mafia pe viață, a short break, frați, de fapt, right? Actually brothers, right? We're actually brothers, right? And this one shows a sign of, you know, this exclamation mark, right? They're kind of proud a bit of that. Actually, not a bit. They're very proud of it, right? And then you have the chorus. Refrain means chorus, which is repeated twice, okay? Poți să ne spui rugăciuni refers to you can beg us or you can tell us prayers, right? Să se întâmple minuni, for wonders to happen. Întâmpla, a se întâmpla in this case means to happen, right? And minuni is wonders, right? Here is a Romanian proverb or a yes, a wise word. Ce semeni aduni, what you sow you shall collect, right? Fugi, fugi, vin băieți buni, right? Run, run, right? Fugi is the imperative for the verb run, a fugi, right? It's a fugi, the accent is on the I, but here the accent falls on U, fugi, okay? Fugi, fugi, vin băieți buni, okay? Vin băieți, okay? The accent is on E, vin băieți buni, okay? The accent is on U. So run, run, here come the good guys, right? And the suspense marks actually show that, you know, the good guys aren't necessarily the good guys. And in the videos, you can see the police folks who aren't always, you know, rendered as, you know, the good guys indeed, right? In many cases, in many countries, the police can actually, you know, follow the interests of certain gangs, either because, you know, some of those policemen and, you know, people higher up in the ranks may be corrupt. Usually that's what the song presents, right? But there are those cases where, you know, the police actually, you know, infiltrate the ranks of the mafia so that, you know, they learn certain things, right? So that one day they, you know, jump and, you know, they descend upon them in order to arrest them. Now moving to the second strophe, right? They start with prezint soluții radicale ca toți băieții buni, right? I show radical solutions like all the good guys, right? Like all the good boys, like all the good guys, right? Good guys, right? Here this is the subject, care, this is the subject here, which replicates, here the subject is omitted again because it should have been eu or me, right? I present radical solutions just like, right? Ca, like, toți, all, good guys, right? Care au ridicat, right? Care au ridicat imperii în afaceri ilegale, right? Who raised empires in, you know, illegal businesses, right? And, you know, băieții buni, here băieții is what this care, right? Who, right? In Romanian is called a pronoun, unsettled pronoun. I don't know how it is called in English, right? It is an impersonal pronoun, right? And it replicates this one. Alright? Când stradă poți să te alegi cu rănile tale atunci când armele zâmbesc în felinare. Okay? For on the streets, actually, când stradă, here there should have been this as well, right? Când stradă poți să te alegi. So on the streets, you, again the subject is omitted, you can find yourself or you can end up, let's say, with lethal wounds, right? You can end up, poți să te alegi cu, you can end up with lethal wounds when, atunci, right? Again, this one should have been an A-shaped, but it doesn't matter. When the arms, firearms, or the weapons, here they could have used a word called îți. Now, îți means you, right? Îți zâmbesc în felinare, but it is much faster without it, right? When the firearms smile in your face, right? Felinare in Romanian, felinar, the singular, felinare, the plural, it's another neutral, un felinar, două felinare. It shows street lights, right? But you can also use it in a slang form for your eyes. And in the video, specifically when they say it's zâmbesc în felinare or zâmbesc în felinare, you know, someone is shown with a shotgun, right? When you're, you know, pointed a gun at, right? When you have a gun pointed at your face, right? Some things like that. Now the next 4 verses present în continuare bulangii, written here with 3 eyes, as it should be, toarnă și răstoarnă tot. So, liderii adevărați pălesc ca un boboc de floare, uitat de florăresele din colț în soare, și garda se fălește acum cu un pește atât, here should have been the U, atât de mare Da, well, this one is a preparatory part for this. Ok, it's atât de mare, da reacția în lanț, Gabor zac în șanț. Ok, this verse is read like immediately, this verse is read immediately after this one, so this part is theoretically part of this one. So, în continuare would basically mean following this, right? Following all of these said here, right? All of the actions here. Bulangi, again, is another word for, a synonym of găinar, and the sense that curve has in here. Those people who have basically no spine, they have no morals, principles, Now, what bulangiu means in Romanian means kind of homosexual, right? Because bulan means, well, it's part of the leg. It's the calf, I think you call it in English. And, it's those who usually touch you around there. That's why they're also called bulangiu, right? Toarnă means, it comes from the Latin torna and means to spill. It can also be used in a way to spill the beans, or it means to spill the truth, right? When you have moles in the system, right? They snitch, right? They say things that shouldn't have, right? They get some secrets that were told to them because they were trusted, and well, obviously they can't be trusted, but you didn't know that. So, they will slip those secrets to the other parties, right? For personal gain, obviously. And toarnă și răstoarnă here is, it's a very good play of words because they snitch and they turn everything upside down, right? They sow chaos in their wake because, all the weaknesses of one, right, they share to everyone else, right? So it's like they always destabilize everything. They're just like fleas, they suck on things and then they spread them everywhere, right? So it's a bit trickier to translate this one, right? And tot means everything, right? These kind of folks, these spineless folks, the corrupt ones, the corrupt to the bones, right? These are the least trustworthy, and obviously they are the ones who, they snitch, they betray, and upturn or uproot everything, right? They turn everything to chaos. Liderii adevărați, right? The true leaders, right? The mafia leaders, or those who lead their own lives in more modest ways, or whatever kind of leader, right? The true leaders, they are not represented, so they die, right? Apăli in this case, it can also mean apăli means to fade, right? The flowers fade, right? Pălesc, but can also mean apăli una. If you say it like that, it means to give them a punch, right? To give them a slap, but it's not that sense. It's, they just fade like a flower, right? Like a flower forgotten by the, flower sellers, right? But it's a female in here. Florăreasă is the woman who sells flower, right? And florăresele din colț, it's like, the women who sell flowers at a small shop at the corner, right? Din colț here is corner of a street, and it's just that true leaders are that insignificant, okay? They just fade like a flower forgotten by the flower seller women, from a corner shop, right? În soare means, a flower forgotten in the sun, right? Forgotten by the flower sellers, right? In the sun, right? And the sun, we know, can be very ruthless, so these leaders just pale, right? They wither, and they're just like that, forgotten, right? That's kind of what this verse would want to present. Și garda se fălește acum cu un pește atât de mare. Well, yes, garda comes from the gendarmerie, right? And it's the much more elite part of the police. They are called for, they are, let's say, the true law enforcers. The police folks are also as well, but gendarmeria is called when, things are more serious, right? When you need more force, when you need more brute force, right? They are trained for such specific situations. Okay, and the police or the law enforcers, let's call it like that, pride themselves now with a fish. Well, pește can mean different things. In Romanian, pește means fish, but usually in slang it almost always means a pimp, the one who uses girls, for sexual purposes, right? And they gain money out of that. Basically, the pimp, right? With the pimp, this great, and the pimp, most likely they have been betrayed, right, by the boulanger, right, or they have been used as the black sheep, right, the lamb for the slaughter, by other tribes or such of the folks who raised illegal businesses, right? Because here no one is a good guy in the end. They are all thick in the mud, right? And well, I'm not that good at translating this kind of rap music, okay? But, well, I just wanted to give some sense to people who are interested in both learning Romanian and understanding what the words want, okay? Uitat de flor, okay? And this one is dar, I think, or da, well, means yes, if it is used as da, de mare. Or I think when you put this, it actually is a word named dar, which means but, right? And it's actually a swift switch to the next verse, which means da reacția in lanț. Yes, the reaction is, well, actually a chain reaction. Gabori zac în șanț, avem demisii extraordinare la bilanț, and they also say a yo. Următorul candidat la tron își face loc printre ziduri de beton, right, it rhymes with this, și acaparează tot. Okay, now here we have another sense of în lanț, right, but you pronounce this n, right, reacția în lanț, right, because you don't pronounce it as e în, right, you win another syllable in the syllable count, right. The reaction is actually a chain reaction, right, chain reaction, right. All of these things are constantly repeating, okay, it's a chain reaction that goes on and on and on. Gabor, okay, police folks lie in a ditch, right, basically, most likely victims of shootings, right, they lie dead by the streets, right. În șanț can be used in different things. It can also mean that things are to the lowest possible, right. Some police folks, usually the true ones, right, the uncorrupted ones, zac în șanț can be a situation in which the true police folks can be, this situation can be interpreted as the true police folks, the situation is very grim for them, they're easily either sent as cannon fodder in such cases, and most likely they get shot, because police folks usually aren't equipped for large scale fights or some situations. They usually have a gun, and usually they go with one car where there's one or two of them, rarely three, right. When the gendarmerie comes, usually they come with 3-4 enforcers, usually those big cars, and when they descend in great numbers, right. They have body armor equipped, right, they have far better equipment, right. Then we have demisii extraordinare, this extraordinaire, just like in English, right? It means, after such things happen, you have such folks appearing on the television, and, they quit their positions, right? Just to, keep the population busy, right? And that's kind of what it wants to say here. La bilanț means one after the other, or, well, that's actually the result, right? The result of such things is, well, someone else comes to the public, right, to the news, and they say they quit, right? But it's just an ongoing machine. One corrupt folk, right, they go into some kind of paradise because, some people died, and, in order to present a sense of justice, there's that thing, you know, people have done some justice, right? That person has been brought down, right? And another one goes in their place, right? But the one who's brought down, right, the one who was sent out from their post, right, they're probably sent away in some kind of you know, fiscal paradise, and you know, another corrupt entity of the system takes their place, right, until another one of these events, right, or something like that, some crimes, some illegal things happen, and you know, that one, after, you know, they stood there a while, they did some of their, you know, miserable deeds, right, they stole some money, right, then they are also sent away, and you know, another one comes, and that's why you have reacția and lance, right, that's why it's a chain reaction. It always does something, someone is sent out of their post, right, but it's all just a show of corruption, right, it's just no one actually fucking cares, right, someone comes in on the post, they do what higher chains want, and then, you know, the press comes in and, you know, they lie, right, this person has been brought down, justice has been made, just to keep the masses busy, right, with a false sense of justice, right, and then exactly what I was saying, the next candidate to the throne își face loc, right, and you can see someone entering through the, well, actually exiting the building in the video clip, right, and they are showing themselves in front of the press, which is basically the best liars of the world, right, so the next candidate to the throne makes his way, right, towards the throne, in between walls of, wait, beton is let's say steel in this case, but it's more concrete, actually concrete, right, between walls of concrete, and then acaparează tot means they gain everything, right, so the point is people die, and then, you know, the people, the masses are simply, you know, they're kept busy, right, they're distracted with all sort of useless, you know, quotes, which is also said in the third strophe, right, people, the news, right, the mass media show all sorts of things, while the next, you know, corrupted candidate comes in, right, and, you know, they actually take what the others left, right, they continue the business of the others, right. Și eu sunt sigur pe mine că nu poți să te bazezi decât pe tine, nici gaborii nu prea mă plac în fine, sângele latin care încă-mi curge în vine, mă face să fiu ca Al Capone, știi bine. Okay? So what is for verses mean is, and I, here finally we have a subject, eu, right? It's the first person singular subject, și eu sunt sigur pe mine, and I am sure of myself that you, here it is omitted, right, că tu nu poți să te bazezi would have been, but here you have that you cannot, that you can only base your trust in yourself, right, să te bazezi, well, you can trust only in yourself, right, să te bazezi decât, only, right, decât pe tine, only in you, you can only, well, on you in Romanian, but in English it's in you, right, you can only trust or confide in your own self, right, so I'm sure of myself that you can I'm very sure of myself that you can only trust in your own self. The police people either, right, the police people either, in this case it's negative, right, let's say neither the police people don't like me, în fine, well, it's fine, okay, or it can be used as in the end, right, because fine can be also in the end, right, so the point is the police people themselves also don't like me, so the point is kind of nobody likes me because I live on Strazile, right, I live on the streets, I do my things on the streets, right, just like the beginning said, so you can only trust yourself because basically you can't trust anyone else. The Latin blood that's still spilling through my, or yes, still spilling through my veins make me feel, right, makes me be or feel or be like Al Capone and you know this one is știi bine. This is another enforcer of the situation, which means you know this very well, right? And it also rhymes with vine and fine and tine, right? Știi bine, this is the final enforcer, right? You know it already, right? It's like I'm very sure of myself that you can only trust on yourself, you know, like nici gaborii nu mă prea plac în fine, right? So it's many other folks don't like me, not even the police folks like me in the end, right? And the Latin blood, right, that's boiling or still spilling through my veins make me feel like Al Capone, right? These are the rebels of the society, right? They're doing things in their own, in a way, corrupt ways because they don't like the way the system works, right? So they always seek to bypass the system to handle life in their own way, right? And they end it with știi bine, right? You already know this by heart, right? And here is the chorus again, which is the same as this one. And the third strophe, the final one, begins with pe când se întâmplau basmele, right? Pe când se întâmplau basmele, right? Oamenii au creat legile, atunci au definit părțile, astfel s-au aruncat cărțile, right? So this verse shows that, you know, this is just like here, reacția in lanț, it's a chain reaction, right? And it started pe când se întâmplau basmele, right? By the time, you know, or ever since, you know, the time of fairy tales, right? Basm in Romanian means fairy tale, right? So this is a very old thing, right? Corruption and the such is as old as time, you can say it, right? So back in the time of fairy tales, right, in the oldest times possible, oamenii, humans, au creat, right, have created laws, right? Then when the laws were created, then when humans created or defined the laws, humans then defined, right, the sides, right? Părțile is the sides, right? The parts, the belligerent parts or the sides, because once you have a side, it's always going to be a war, right? Because where there's one side, there's obviously another one, right? And so astfel s-au aruncat cărțile. Now cărțile or cărți means books. Now the reason why I wanted to do this translation is because, well, Google Translate can goof up with the meaning, right? So it's always best to be presented from the sense, from the point of view of, you know, a Romanian, right? A Romanian speaker, because cărți means book. Books, it's the plural of books, but it can also be, it's the same word used for, you know, play cards, right? The cards you can use for trading card games or for other games, like for example, you know, poker and the such, right? And the point is, this is an expression, s-au aruncat cărțile, right? You can't translate as the books were thrown, right? It's like the dice were thrown, right? This is the Romanian equivalent. Ale iacta est, right? The dice have been thrown, from Latin in English. And in Romanian you have zarurile au fost aruncate, right? But in this case it has kind of a poker meaning, right? Cărțile s-au aruncat, right? Everyone made their own bid, right? They bid their sum of money and then they're showing their cards, right? So the point is, back ever since, you know, we kind of know ourselves, humans have created, or back in time immemorable, right? Humans have created the laws, and in doing so, they have defined the sides, and then in this way, the cards have been spilled, right? The cards have been thrown. So now, technically, both sides are very knowledgeable of the other. You know the cards of the others, right? You may not know specifically who the people in the other gang are, right? But you know what to expect, right? So, and you know, this is also presented as time goes on, right? Because conflictul a schimbat armele pentru a doborî țintele, okay? This T is actually the ț in here. It is basically a T with a comma under it, and it is pronounced as ț. Again, just like a and U, it is always pronounced like that, right? Romanian doesn't have any, fluctuations in the sense or in the pronunciation of those. Okay, you have U, Z, and Sh. These are always pronounced like that, and these are always read like that. Okay, when you see this one, it is always pronounced an When you see this one, is always pronounced a Z, right? So, and this one is always pronounced U, right? This one is always right? So the conflict, right? Not hard to understand. The conflict has changed the weapons. So the humans have created the laws. Well, let's actually read it all, right? Because it is kind of well to bound one to the other. So, pe când se întâmplau basmele, oamenii au creat legile. Atunci au definit părțile, astfel s-au aruncat cărțile. Conflictul a schimbat armele pentru a doborî țintele. Armurile sunt azi vestele care împiedică gloanțele. Dar și așa curge sângele, imagini sumbre dau știrile, mai nou se folosesc vocile, testele ADN, actele și totuși nu se văd semnele cum că s-ar încheia luptele, garda și-a adunat forțele să încerce să ne ia străzile, poate la anul zic, and of course then you have the chorus. So let's actually go through all of it and do a translation, right? Let's actually try a word-for-word translation and then some explanation, okay? So, since back in times immemorial, right, humans have created laws, right? Or let's say have structured laws, right? Then they have defined the sides, so this way the, let's say, dice were thrown, right? And therefore the conflict, right, the way how you fight the conflict, right, the laws, the rules of the conflict have been set, right? This is what this would want to say, right? This is how we're gonna fight. We have the laws, we have the sides, this is how we're gonna fight, right? And then you move exactly to the subject, right, the conflict, right? Because this is, s-au aruncat cărțile, it has been decided. You can also translate it in many ways. So then it has been decided how the conflict will basically be taken care of, right? And the conflict has changed weapons, right? So as time went by, since, the times of fairy tales, the weapons have changed in time, right? The conflict has changed the weapons. So in order to kill or to bring down the targets, right? The armors, right? The body armors are now, sunt, plural. The armors are now the vests, right? The armor vest that you wear nowadays. They're no longer, the knight armors, right? Because the conflict has nowadays changed the weapons, right? You need better armor. So nowadays it's the vests that right, care, that stop the bullets, right? The vests that stop the bullets, right? But even so, dar și așa, right? But even so, blood flows, right? Somber images the news show, right? Let's actually call it with a bit of rhyme. But even so, blood does flow. Somber images the news does show, because the news is singular in Romanian, but here it's a plural. Mai nou se folosesc vocile, as I was saying, right? I was saying somewhere behind that, the voices that are used, right, to keep the masses busy, right? As of late, right, voices are being used, right? DNA tests and papers, right? Yet still you don't see any signs, right? The signs cannot be seen. Signs is here the subject, right? But it's an inversion here și totuși semnele nu se văd, but it's put at the end. Yet still signs cannot be seen that the fights would ever end, right? Garda, which in many cases in rap, right, is seen as the bad guys, right, which is the police folks, the corrupt folks, because technically the history of the police is, you know, a very interesting one. Okay, but let's actually finish this. So there is still no sign, right, or yet still the signs cannot be seen that the fights would ever be over, or the fights would be over. The police, or the state, let's say, the police have gathered, right, have gathered their forces, right? I think the police is, or are, no, the police is still singular, yes, and in this case Garda is singular as well. So the police has gathered its forces to try, right, to try to take, să ia, our, să ne ia, Strazile, right, the title of the song, right, to try to conquer our streets, right, or to send us away from our streets, right. And then this is a separate part of the verse, poate la anul zic, maybe next year I'll say, and then you have the chorus again. So the meaning is quite clear, right? You don't need much thing, but Garda, you know, as a last topic, the police has a very interesting, you know, history. The police has been founded in the USA as it's started, you know, colonialism started in America, right? And since there were a lot of criminals, because, well, there wasn't any kind of structure in there, there were a lot of criminals, right? So there had to be, you know, the sheriffs and the convoys of, you know, supplies that were brought from Europe in there had to be defended. There happened to be a lot of people who actually vowed for that, right? They offered to do that, right? They were volunteers. And as they were volunteers, right, they simply would do that, right? And they would help guard the convoys. Later on, these were actually turned into police folks, and they were actually hired by states as, you know, constitutions and more structure was created. So technically, in the end, police folks are doing nothing else ultimately than supporting, you know, the state. But the question nowadays is they're kind of supporting the corporations, right? And that's kind of a theme of this song, right? They are, you know, these people in the streets, right? They are doing their own things to live their own life, right? In a kind of an honorable way, although it is viewed as not so honorable. Of course, they're also represented by their own sins, yes, but, well, that's the point, right? They are fighting the system in a certain way, right? Because the system has gathered its forces to try to take our streets, right? To take our streets away. Let's call it like that. So hopefully you liked this one. I kind of don't like creating long videos, although I don't have any problem doing that, but this is for anyone who wants to learn English and, well, basically, in a sense, well, with some explanation about Romanian, how Romanian works and, well, what the song itself means. Now, all this being said, you are appreciated. Take care of yourselves. Ferenc on board signing out.